You know, we all love garlic. It's a staple in kitchens literally all over the world. But before it ever gets to your plate, it has to survive a brutal fight out in the field against a hidden, relentless enemy. Today, we're going to pull back the curtain on that enemy and explore a simple, natural, and honestly kinda ancient solution that could really change the way we grow our food.
So, what is this mysterious enemy? You might be thinking it's some kind of nasty pest or a new disease. But nope, it's something far more common and maybe even more destructive: weeds. In the world of agriculture, weeds are the ultimate villain. They're in a constant battle with our crops for every last drop of water, every ray of sunlight, and all the nutrients in the soil. And the scale of this problem? It's absolutely staggering.
Get this, almost a third of our major crops across the globe are lost to weeds. That's a huge number. It's actually more than the losses from all the bugs and diseases combined. And that's not just a headache for farmers, it's a serious threat to our global food supply. So, what have we been doing to fight back?
Well, for the last half-century or so, our main weapon of choice has been chemical herbicides. And sure, they work, but they come with a hefty price tag. You've got weeds that are becoming resistant, like superweeds. We have the damage these chemicals can do to the environment. And of course, there are those growing concerns about what they might be doing to our own health. Which leads us to the big question, right? Is there a better, more ecological way to win this war on weeds?
It turns out the answer might not be in some high-tech lab, but by looking back at techniques we've known about for ages. So let's introduce the hero of this story: mulching. It's a method that's been around forever, but modern science is just now showing us how incredibly powerful it can be.
Okay, so what exactly is mulching? It's actually pretty simple. It just means covering the soil around your plants with a layer of something. That something can be organic material like straw or sawdust, or even inorganic stuff. The whole point is to create this protective blanket over the soil that gives your crops a huge leg up on the competition.
And the magic of mulch is that it does so many things at once. First off, it blocks sunlight, so weed seeds can't even get started. But that's not all. It also keeps the soil temperature nice and even. It holds in moisture so you don't have to water as much, it stops the soil from eroding, and it can even fire up the good microbes that keep the soil healthy and alive. It's a total win-win-win. Now, all of this sounds fantastic, right? But the real question is, does it actually work out in a real farm under real conditions? To figure that out, we're diving into a specific scientific study from Diyarbakır, Turkey, that put mulching to the ultimate test with garlic.
And here's where we get our information. The source for today's explainer is a fantastic piece of research by Ayşe Usanmaz Bojiyuk, which was published in the Turkish Journal of Agriculture and Forestry. This is the peer-reviewed science, the hard data that underpins this entire story.
So how did the researcher actually figure this out? Let's walk through exactly how the experiment was set up.
It was a really smart and clean experimental design. The team planted local garlic, and then they set up different test plots. 3 of those plots were covered with different types of organic mulch, one with pine leaves, one with sawdust, and one with straw. Then, for comparison, they had 2 control plots. One was just left to go wild with weeds, and the other was kept perfectly clean by weeding it by hand. After that, all they had to do was watch and measure everything. So, after months of growth and careful observation, the numbers started rolling in. And when they did, well, let's just say a very clear winner emerged from this agricultural showdown. First, let's look at the weeds themselves. The weedy control plot, as you'd expect, was a mess. Over 10 weeds packed into every square meter. But the mulch plot's a completely different story. The pine mulch was the star performer here, cutting the number of weeds down by almost half. But honestly, this next chart is the one that really matters. How much garlic did they actually grow? The weedy plot gave them a pretty sad 0.71 kilograms. The plot that was painstakingly weeded by hand, a solid 1.39 kilograms. But look at the pine mulch plot. It produced 1.32 kilograms. That's almost identical to the perfect hand-weeded plot and nearly double the weedy one. All of that without a single chemical and with way, way less work. And hey, don't just take my word for it. To put it in the author's own words, the conclusion was crystal clear. Mulching, especially with pine, made a huge difference. It crushed the weeds, and it seriously boosted the garlic yield. I mean, that's a powerful endorsement for this approach, coming straight from the scientific source.
Okay, so pine mulch is a game changer for growing garlic in Turkey. That's awesome. But why should this matter to the rest of us? Well, this is where we need to zoom out a bit, from this single, fascinating experiment to the much bigger picture of how we feed the entire planet.
So here are the big things to take away from all this. First, this study gives us hard proof that organic mulch isn't just some nice idea. It's a real, effective alternative to chemical herbicides. Second, it does two jobs at once. It fights the bad stuff, the weeds, while helping the good stuff, the crop, to flourish. Third, the materials they used, pine leaves, straw, these are often cheap, local, and easy to find. This isn't about high-tech, it's about smart tech. And finally, all of this points toward a much more sustainable, healthier, and more ecological way of farming for everyone.
And that kind of leaves us with one final big thought to chew on. You know, in our constant search for the next futuristic, high-tech solution, maybe we sometimes forget to look at the simple, powerful wisdom that's been right under our noses all along. This study seems to suggest that maybe, just maybe, the future of farming is actually hidden in its past.